The United States has doubled tariffs on Indian goods to 50%, penalizing India for buying Russian oil, making it one of the biggest trade challenges between the two countries in recent years. India calls the move unfair and warns it could make most of its $86.5 billion exports to the US unviable, hitting key sectors like gems, textiles, footwear, and agriculture. The US is India's largest export market, buying about one-fifth of all goods India sells abroad. Experts say such high tariffs could make Indian products less competitive, disrupt supply chains, and force companies, big and small, to rethink their prices, marketing, and global strategies. This is not just about trade. It's about geopolitics and the image of brand India in global markets. Today we speak with Harish Bijoor, branding expert and founder of Harish Bijoor Consults Inc, on the options businesses have and how branding can help meet this challenge. Thank you so much, sir, for doing this with Daily Salar. And of course, the first thing that I want to ask you is how do you view this whole increase in the tariffs by the US for India?
Okay. See, firstly, I'd like to say that, President Donald Trump is good for the United States of America, and he will have the interest of the people of the United States of America in his heart. And Prime Minister Modi is great for India, and he will have the interest of the people of India by and large. And therefore, I think this is a tussle between two friends. And to an extent, I think we have become a frenemy nation, if I'm to pull a lingo from the Gen Z kind of word. And I think, this frenemyship is dictated by geopolitics. And a lot of it is dependent on what's been happening historically and what's likely to be wanted to be changed from the perspective of the United States of America. And by that, I refer to our relationship with Russia in particular.
So, I mean, of course, there is a geopolitical factor over here, and the major thing is India using or taking buying Russian oil. That's the major problem. By 25% has been increased. So, what do you think could be the impact of this on India and especially the export business?
In many ways, I do feel that this is a tussle for the love of India. What I mean is that the United States of America wants the love of India. And the idea seems to be to say that if you love the enemy, you don't love me. Now, India has always, tried to establish for itself a reasonably neutral status. Okay, not as much as the Switzerland, for instance, but I would say that India has always wanted relationships to be good with the world at large, and it has maintained it for a long, long period of time, except for immediate neighbors, and one in particular, which is Pakistan. Even with China, the relationship has been maintained at a good level. Uh, the day and age today is really about geopolitical trade, and trade is the big word. President Donald Trump always talks about trade, and trade is the biggest element in it all. And I think it is trade governing everything. Now, when it comes to Russian oil, it's a relationship, okay? And if you go back to the time of the rupee ruble trade in the old days, and now what's happening, over a period of time, the color of trade is being redefined. And I think, there is something called black trade, there's something called white trade. Let me not take those two colors, they give other connotations. But let me say that there's something called red trade and there's something called white trade. Red trade is the one which has blood on its hands, and white trade is clean trade without the blood on your hands. And what is being imputed as motive on this seems to be to say that you're supporting Russia, and Russia is actually causing the war in Ukraine, and a lot of people are getting killed, and you are responsible for it equally. I think that's unfair. It's an unfair statement because trade doesn't really have colors. Trade has just one color. At the end of the day, the bottom line that is drawn out in a country at the end of a financial year to say that I did so much of trade, my foreign exchange ballooned to this level or shrank. That's all that seems to matter today. But the analogy seems to be to say that, the blood diamonds and all analogy to say that diamonds which are mined with the exploitation of people is wrong. Trade is getting that kind of color. Must trade get that color is a key question at hand. And who's to judge? Who's to decide? I mean, there are bigger powers which decide on that. But if you ask me, there is a lot of export out of Russia, which goes into n numbers of countries, up to 81 countries across the world. And many of these, which means 81 countries are responsible for importing stuff from Russia. So the question in India seems to be to say, why have you picked on India? Why this double slap, 25 plus 25? The other day I tweeted out, I said, it's that old Damini movie in which, this line came up, Tariq, pe Tariq, pe Tariq. And this is tariff, pe tariff, pe tariff. I think, it's going on and on. And so I think it's a elongated battle which has gone on. And it's taken a long time. Our trade talks have collapsed to an extent in the sense that they've been called off for a while, right? Now, I think this is the negotiation stance of President Donald Trump as far as India is concerned, where he's saying that I've given you 25%. I'm going to slap another 25% because of your relationships. So the attempt seems to be to try and really find the relationships of India with other nations. Now, that's going to be difficult. Believe it or not, it's going to be difficult. Because, I think as a country, we have always believed in having good relationships with all. We're good fellows with good friends.
But even with this geopolitical impact, do you think that it could affect the India's economic GDP and majorly the export business? Because US is one of the major countries that we export to.
Yes, most certainly, yes. See, firstly, let's look at the 25% duty. That in itself is big. It isn't 15, 17%, which should largely be okay as far as India is concerned. But it's 25. Now, add to that another 25. Now, that's killing. That's killing. That's killing a lot of route of business out of India to the United States of America. Now, again, the United States of America could be choosy on this, as it has been. Computers, computer peripherals, anything that Apple manufactures in India may not get a slap of that plus 25. I mean, that's being selective, right? So some sectors are protected, some are not. I do believe this is also a negotiation stance to say that open up your dairy industry for me. Because at the end of the day, milk, cheese, every dairy product is so big. Open it up for me. So it's not only that, agriculture, open it up for me to an extent. So I think, this call, these two calls, particularly this business of dairy and agri, have got huge political ramifications.
Yeah.
And believe it or not, no political party, no ruling party would ever err on that.
In India, at least, agriculture is a major sector, and farmers is a huge vote bank. It's highly unlikely that the government goes down on that one concern. So,
absolutely.
Do you believe that could the economic strain that might come because of the tariffs spur more domestic consumption and internal market focus?
Yeah.
Would that be even sustainable if that happens?
I wish. But if wishes were horses, all of us would be all over, right? Sadly, no. Because India has always shown an overdependence on certain countries in terms of its exports. Take IT, end-to-end services, for instance. The IT end-to-end services revolution, which began some 30 years ago, depended wholly on the United States of America for a long period of time. I work with N numbers of IT-enabled services companies, and I have been screaming from the rooftop for the past 28 of those 30 years, saying that, hey guys, we need to rebalance. And the rebalance happened. There's a lot of Europe, there's a lot of Southeast Asia, etc., etc. But the point is that in that rebalancing as well, there is this theme called greed is good. And greed is good is all about business from the United States of America is the most greedy business to grab. And I think over a period of time, we grab that business. And when good business is coming from there, why bother about expanding your bandwidth elsewhere? The IT end-to-end services enterprises themselves have not been able to hedge on this as much as they should have. Can you imagine something like FMCG, durables, cars, the woolen blanket industry? I mean, n numbers of industries, the gems and jewelry industry. The gems and jewelry industry is yet another one which could hedge hugely. But, I think, old habits die hard. Changing those old habits, you need a crisis. You need a tumult. Maybe this is that crisis. Maybe this is that tumult. If this 25 plus 25 actually hits the ground, a lot of businesses are going to redefine and say, which other country I must go to. And when you build a business with a new country, you can't build it overnight, right? You need 8 full years to really capitalize and gain only as much as 20-22% of the traction in that market. 8 years only for 20 to 22% traction in the market. Indian businesses have something like about a 61-62% traction in the United States of America market. That means you need 24 years, if not more, to get that kind of traction in other countries. So this is, bravado to say that, this is a point of time when we should change our business models. We should look away from the United States of America. Oh, come on, guys, be real. The United States of America is a big mother market. If you want to move out of that mother market, it won't happen overnight. And many businesses will be troubled.
So are you saying that this could also be an opportunity for us to change our business strategies for the businesses?
Yes. Yes, I think it's an opportunity for Indian businesses to re-leverage and say that my strategies must change. The world, if it's really flat, we must show that it's flat. I should have in my entire business plan that I put together for my business, big or small, a portfolio which has got a geographical spread which is reasonably well balanced. So geographical balancing of businesses is a must. Geographical hedging is a must. So when I enter into a business plan of a company, I tend to, one of my first questions is, which country are you over dependent on? Most CEOs are appalled, because over dependent, it's such a negative word. Yeah, but hey guys, you are over dependent. Every business has an over dependence quotient. And guess what? That over dependence quotient is most of the time on the United States of America. So time to wake up, smell the coffee, and maybe put a business plan for the next 8 years where you'll hedge and look at building different quotients in different markets.
So could this also impact the China plus one strategy?
Yes, it could. But this China plus one strategy is such a bandied term. It kind of, comes up all the time. I don't see too much of merit in it, frankly. And therefore, I think India must have an India plus India strategy, which is to say that India is two, if not three, if not four. I have urban India. Most of my brands are urban centric brands. Hang on. You need to have India plus India. What is India 2? India 2 is I must have an India rural strategy, specifically for rural areas, tier 2 towns. Plus, I must have an India plus India plus India strategy. What is that? Urban India plus rural India plus rural India. Hang on. I have built a new theory which is called there is a deeper India which is called deep rural. Therefore, you need to have 4 strategies for any of your businesses within India itself, which is India 1, urban, India 2, urban, India 3, rural, and India 4, deep rural. Believe it or not. Look into the business plans of companies. Even here, there's overdependence. Bulk of the companies. I mean, okay, let me take a look at the auto category. Okay. In the auto category, where I work quite deeply, auto categories are dependent 81 on urban. Okay. I mean, that's just too big, just too big. And guess what? The 100 minus 81, that 19 that remains, as much as 17 is urban. The 2% is rural. Hey guys, what about deepening that urban quotient from that 17 to maybe 30? What about deepening that rural quotient from that 2 upwards? And what about looking at deep rural markets? Because the deep rural markets are equally important as rural markets. They're inaccessible, but they're great powerhouses of consumption. India has ignored its real power. India's real power rests in deep rural, urban, and urban. Refocus.
Also, what could be the options for exporters now be if 50% is completely implemented? One example that you gave is it's time to diversify their capital, diversify their options. What other things can these export businesses do?
Well, one of the things you must focus on is branding. Okay, this is very close to my heart, so I have to say it. Okay, no interview of mine goes without a talk on branding. And the branding is important because I define the brand. Simply, the brand is a thought that lives in a person's mind. Now, if we had branded enough of our exports, then I think we'd have done much better because the demand for our branded exports couldn't go to any other country. Because I make my Bajaj scooters, full stop, or my Bajaj motorcycles, full stop. Nobody else can make my Bajaj motorcycle. So if you want a Bajaj motorcycle, you have to come to India. But if you want a motorcycle, you can go to 21 different countries which make motorcycles and export hugely and good quality motorcycles. So this business of soulless branding, again, a gap in our country. Again, we are dependent on commodity exports more than branded exports. Now, take a look at the debate between the United States of America and India. America wants to send into India a lot of its bourbon, okay, and every bourbon brand is highly branded, okay. Hey, that's great. America wants to send into India at lower prices. I mean, a net of duties, the Harley Davidson motorcycle, okay. Now, listen, guys, if you have to buy a Harley Davidson motorcycle, you have to go to the United States of America. Nobody else can give you that. If you want an American bourbon, you have to go to America. That's branding, guys. Have we done the same thing, or are we too commodity besotted? Okay, you can be commodity besotted with rare metals, palladium, or anything, tin, titanium, tantalum. You can be commodity besotted, but even there's branding. In fact, I work with a tantalum guy out of Taiwan, where we are branding it for the a particular use in the mobile industry, because tin, tantalum, and titanium are used heavily in every mobile phone that you typically use. Hey guys, branding. I mean, there are countries which have branded something which is a chip. How can you brand a chip? I mean, Intel Inside is the classic example to say that a chip which is nonsensical, which runs the entire thing, but nobody sees. But then, moment you say Intel Inside, you're excited. That's branding. So I don't think we focus enough on branding, and that's a gap, and that's something every Indian business must attempt. Go and brand.
But this sort of branding can be one thing that bigger businesses can do, larger companies can do. But what about the small enterprises, the small, especially the textile market that can be very heavily affected by this? How can they brand here in this space?
I think even smaller businesses can brand hugely. I'm involved with a lot of SMEs, a lot of SMEs. There is a chappal company, there is a shoe company, which is highly aggressively branded. Okay. And there is a brand out of Kerala, and this is called, out of Coimbatore actually now. This is called Wakaru. Wakaru is a shoe company, and it's a large turnover company, and they make the best quality stuff and sell it all across the globe. Hey, guys, Wakaru is a brand. You could have sold those slippers as slippers. It's a tiny guy in the beginning. Slipper as a slipper versus a slipper as a walkaroo. And that is premiumization, that is recognizability. So the smallest of guys can make the biggest of offerings, particularly in this day and age where niche is good. Niche is good. Niche is great. People are doing crazy things in the world of niche. And there's no reason why we should have, but we should discover the story. I'm in New York at this point of time, and I was walking on the streets very close to Fifth Avenue, and I walked into a store, and I find an ice cream, and the ice cream has got a unique flavor, and it's really solidly exposed, and it's called breast milk ice cream. Breast milk ice cream. I said, "Oh God, who's going to drink this? Babies? No, not for babies. It's for adults." What is this? This is called nichification. This is called taking ice cream flavors. There are a total of 942 ice cream flavors in India, in the United States of America. Okay, 942. I work in this industry, so I have the exact number. 942 brands. And here comes a new brand, and this is called Frida. And Frida actually launches breast milk ice cream. And guess what? I asked the retailer, "Are you selling this? Are you serious? Is this a gimmick? Is it?" He says, "Flying off the shelf." Why? New flavor, flavor of the month. I think nichification, the smallest of guys can make the biggest of impact. And these guys are being spoken about globally now. Okay. And now on Salar as well, we're talking about this brand. What is this? I think, every small guy can aspire big. And in this day and age, when people think small is beautiful, and that's true. Look at it, the protein, lobby that's really going around in this country. Everything is protein. Have you had 60 grams of protein? An egg can give you only 2.5 grams or something like that. That means you have, what, 25 eggs for that protein. So what are you doing, etc. I think protein is a big gambit now. Look at marketing of protein. The companies are putting in large numbers, 60 on a paneer packet, 60. Now that is a gamification of a niche item onto the mass platform. So people are bandwagon protein bars, protein shakes, protein whatever, and niche. This is niche. There is this company which is called the Whole Truth Foods Company.
Yeah.
Okay, what is it doing? Protein bars. Okay, and what are they saying? The whole world tells you lies. The whole world of marketing tells you lies. I am the Whole Truth Foods Company. Not only are you truthful, but you wear truth on your sleeves. And I think that is, the stuff that small is beautiful is coming to the fore today. Minimalist, classic example of a cosmetic brand. It's sold to, it started niche. If you look at the minimalist bottles, you will see they look like medicine bottles. But when every cosmetic brand, skincare brand, looks like a ration shop brand because of its brand names, big brand names, big brand names, the small win. So this entire sentiment is the David versus Goliath sentiment. Goliath are the big brands. The small offering is from the small guy. And Minimalist starts this, and Minimalist recently got acquired by Hindustan Unilever Limited for 2,900 crores of rupees. So what's really happening? And what is the sentiment there from HUL? If you can't beat them, join them. And the idea is that niche is going to become big. So is HUL going to become a house of niche brands bought out from different people? Look at Reliance and its venture in FMCG. Look at the fact that Reliance bought out, is just buying out labels. Campa Cola was bought out, and 8 other labels have been bought out. So is Reliance going to become a house of niche brands? Now, if these big brands themselves have discovered that small is beautiful, the small brands must understand small is beautiful. So you can brand anything. Small can be branded beautifully. You can brand mud, pure Indian desi mud. I was at Harrods some time ago, walked to the fifth floor in London, looking for Indian brands, and I found one. Shehnaz Hussain Multani Mitti. What is it? It's mud.
Yeah.
Okay. And the thing is, this Shehnaz Hussain Multani Mitti was selling at the equivalent of 3,600 rupees for about 150 grams of pure Desi Indian mud. Not really Desi. I mean, if it's really from Multan, not Desi, but Multani Mitti. So you can brand anything, yeah. Believe in branding. The small must believe in branding more than the big believe in branding. And when the small brand, you must do it differently. I work in the SME category in a big way. N numbers of stories I have, but we don't have the time for them.
So, what could be some of the adaptive branding techniques or strategies that the companies can take up, especially in jewelry sector, or textile sector, or apparel sector, which are majorly going to be affected by the export, and because they are so labor intensive industries as well? What could be something that these?
Well, I've been championing something for a long number of years, for 30 years now, or if not more. Okay. And this is to say that, a basic thing, a basic small change in your line is important. And I would like to appeal Prime Minister Modi ji to really look at this and maybe spearhead it ahead. Everything that we do is we say made in India. Okay. So out here in New York, I'm seeing no label which says made in India wherever I go. The clothes are made in India. But these guys have sent it somewhere. The labels are made in, in numbers of other destinations. Um, Made in India means it's made in the geography of India. My theme is you should say India made. India made. Where do I get this idea of India made? It's not a unique idea of mine. I look at Switzerland. When Switzerland says it's their product, they say Swiss made. What is the difference between made in India and India made? Made in India means made in the geography of India. Geography. Geography is history. Geography need not necessarily give positive cues. But when you say India made, it means made with the pride of India behind it. India made by the proud Indian as well. And I think there is a story there, and that's just a start. I've got possibly many thoughts on this, but this is not a forum to discuss it. There are plenty we can do. But the big one for me is change the entire theme of what we say. Don't say made in India, make in India, may say India made.
So the story would sell here more. It becomes much more emotive and
Absolutely.
bring the Indian diaspora across the world and in US. It adds to the advantage
Yes.
when we tell the story.
Yes, it does.
Also, when we talk about this, what about Made in India strategy? I think in recent campaigns, when Prime Minister Narendra Modi took this as an opportunity to push for Made in India, do you think could this damage it or could it be used better?
As I said, firstly, I believe it should be India made
Mhm.
and India made on everything that we do, because India is a pride statement today. The whole world is looking at India. We're doing exceedingly well in anything that we do. When the whole world is looking at us with such great care, envy, jealousy, I think we might as well use it. This business of India pride, repackaging it as India made is important. Now, uh, the whole theme seems to be to say that there are countries which are going to say that if I buy a car, I want it to be made in my own country. Now, there we get into a little bit of a problem. So the point is, if you say made in India, it means it's made in the geography of India, and therefore it is not okay for me. But if you say India made, you could get away by thinking of the thought that it's made by the proud Indian patent, by the proud Indian human, the proud Indian, etc., technology, processes, etc. So made in India is a pride statement within India. It's a pride statement within the diaspora of Indians living all across the world. And I'm not too confident about that because a lot of diaspora Indians go and buy stuff which is not necessarily, made in India. So if you ask me, the India made story is something very, very important to exploit, to use, and India made will bring sensitivity to India branding more than made in India. Made in India could poke people into their eyes and say, made in India, you guys, take it. India made is a quieter statement. It's a higher elevation statement. It is to say, I respect India, the world respects India, the pride of India comes from India made. Technology. India made a technology. Full stop. Nice, nice. Every piece of technology that you use, an app, India made. Okay. So any new startup is India made. Small stuff, my small scale SSI industry item, India made. I had another appeal with the Commerce Ministry at a point of time. And this is another appeal I would offer to the Commerce Ministry at this point of time through Salar, is that can we think of getting a label for the small scale sector in India, which makes hundreds and thousands of items? There are e-commerce companies which buy from our small scale sector and showcase it to the entire world. Amazon is a classic example, and I think they do a brilliant job for many of our small sector categories. Flipkart does the same. Now, the thing is, if you look at my appeal to the Commerce Ministry is, can we get a sticker, a labeling? Like we have GI indicators, like that, a labeling which says innocently marketed. Innocently marketed. What do I mean by innocently marketed? Innocently marketed means this: I am a small scale industry person. I know my dal chini chawal atta, that is my lentil, rice, and sugar well. I market this, it's a small scale sector produce. I'm branding it, but I don't know branding because these big corporates are the guys who do this nasty thing called branding. I'm innocently marketed, innocently branded, innocently offered. And because I'm innocently branded logo, give me a premium. Because small is beautiful, small is difficult. So that's yet another appeal to the government of India and the Commerce Ministry to say, can we look at that? Because these are things which will promote the India story. Because if small is beautiful, tomorrow globally people should say, hey, do you know something? I'm buying innocently marketed products. Why? Because the big corporations of the world are not innocent. They make money. They fleece customers. Okay, when I use these words, I have to be careful because I work with the big corporates as well. But I'm holding the candle. This is again the David versus Goliath story. David is the small entity, Goliath is this huge entity. The future belongs to David. Not one David, but millions of Davids. And in branding, marketing, advertising strategy, look at the Davidification of your brand. I keep saying even the Goliaths must have a David strategy of their own. Okay.
So it sounds like branding could be a game changer here for everybody, be it only from the
business perspective, or even if the government initiatives, like there are obviously different talks that's happening at the government level to ensure that there is protection for the export business, but adding branding element to it could also add another layer to how the export business
Absolutely.
happens.
Absolutely. I would always like to say branding is not the last thing, branding is the first thing. Incidentally, in all businesses that are small scale oriented, branding is the last thing. By the way, you pay very little attention to the last thing. When you put a brand offering together as a small scale sector enterprises, let's imagine that you're making a nail polish, okay, as a small sector industry. You're putting that nail polish together. The first thing you have to think of is branding, not product, not colors, not uh, animal tested, not 20 other things. Branding. When you start with branding as a thinking platform and pattern, you'll not go wrong in branding. But when you think last, by the way, what do you think last? You have the least time. You run to an advertising agency and say, hey, I've got this nail polish, just brand it for me. And the advertising agency gives you standard solutions which they give to every Tom, Dick, and Harish who comes to them. So, guys, wake up, smell the coffee, and think branding first.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir, for your insight and a
Thank
different
you.
perspective. Thank you.